Hey, welcome everyone. I'm Amy with New Clairvaux Vineyard. I'm the winemaker and I'm doing a virtual live tasting. We are going to be tasting the 19 Sauvignon Blanc and 19 Moscato. I have you guys both on Instagram and Facebook, so there's a little bit of a time delay. This is our very first one, so I'm sure there's going to be a few hiccups, so just give us a little grace here. Hey, Christine, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Wendy and everyone, thank you guys all for coming. So, something very exciting. We're going to be doing this every Friday at 7. So if you, I'm loving all the hearts. Thank you guys. So hopefully you'll join us on the next one. Next Friday, we're going to do Petite Temptation, which is a Vina blend. But tonight, we're going to be talking about two whites. And what I love about these two whites, and what a lot of people don't know, is these two whites have the strongest and are the leads in certain aromatics of all wines in their class. So Sauvignon Blanc is very racy and pungent, is a very common terms that a lot of people use to describe it. And Moscato is very floral and fruity. And so anyways, for those that have wines, I hope you guys have them chilled. And I apologize, I know you're reading this backwards, but we've got the Moscato and then we have the Sauvignon Blanc here. I'm gonna play a little game because I love games. And I want to see if you guys can guess which wine I am going to taste first. So I'm gonna describe a grape or a vine or a varietal, and you type in the comments which one you think I'm going to taste first. So this grape is very green. Its stems are green, its fruit is green. It's the most vibrant green you could ever imagine. When you walk through a field of these grapes, it smells green. Everything about it is green. I don't see anybody saying the right answer yet, and it's a 50-50 yes. Moscato, you are wrong. I'm so sorry, Carrie. Does anybody else? It's gonna be Sauvignon Blanc. It's all, Sauvignon Blanc is green, everything about it. It's a very vigorous vine. It's got not big leaves, but a lot of leaves. And when you taste the wine, a lot of people will say Sauvignon Blanc. Yes, you guys got it. Thank you all for joining. I got a lot of visitors. This is so awesome. Thank you. So let's start tasting. We've had a rough week. I'm sure you guys are all excited to try this. If you don't have these wines, don't worry. If you have a Sauvignon Blanc, even if you have a Cabernet Sauvignon, there's some aromas, surprisingly, that cross over on these two varieties. Merlot, Cab Franc. I know those are reds, but I will explain a little bit of why some of these flavors can cross over. So if you don't have the Sauvignon Blanc, open up another Sauvignon Blanc or open up something else and just join us. So we're gonna do the Sauvignon Blanc here. We're gonna pour it. And like a true winemaker, I've already put this in the fridge. The very first thing I'm gonna do is look at the bottle and make sure that there are no tart traits so that we know that this wine is cold stabilized. If I was a wine critic, I would of course just look right at the color of the wine. And I apologize, I don't have a white piece of paper, but you can see that it's very clear. It's just light in color. Cheers. Very light in color and almost water-like. That's very common for a Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc is grown all around the world, from Australia, France, Chile, Argentina, California. Basically every continent except for Antarctica is where it's grown. Very popular variety. If you were in New Zealand, they are really well known for it. In France, the Loire Valley, and it's also a Bordeaux variety. Something interesting in the Loire Valley, there's two regions. We have Sancerre, and then we also have Poulet Fumé. And fumé in French means smoke, and their wines in that region in particular are known to have a flinty aroma, and usually you get that on the very first pour. So I'm going to have you guys do the very first smell. And it's very acidic, pungent. There's a lot going on with this variety. I don't get a flintiness, but if you were in those regions, you might find that in a Sauvignon Blanc. Let's see here. So if you go to this, California, when you grow this in California, most typically I hear people describe it as grapefruit or peach or tropical flavors. It's a very California style Sauvignon Blanc. I personally love New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs, and New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs would be more gooseberry, which I've never had a gooseberry. I don't know how many people have had gooseberry, but you don't really find that here in the United States. They also describe it as passion fruit. And in New Zealand, you might also hear boxwood or an herbaceousness, kind of a grassiness. Does anybody out there have any comments on what they may be smelling from this Sauvignon Blanc? I get grapefruit and passion fruit. It's very powerful. This is one of my favorite wines because it just is something that you can just sit there and think about, and it just keeps all of these aromas just keep going, and they're very powerful. So someone said citrus. I smell citrus too. It's very tart. A lot of people use the word racy, which I think is kind of a funny term, but it just means it's so acidic that it just is just so powerful and tart. So a lot of these aromas that you are smelling, they're called thiols, and thiols are they're basically a volatile sulfur or a sulfur alcohol, and we pick them up really quickly. There's actually not a lot of those compounds in the wine, but they are so potent that you can smell them across the room. A lot of people would be surprised. Grapefruit is a thiol, and boxwood and gooseberry and passion fruit, those are all in the same realm. And Sauvignon Blanc has the most of these compounds out of every grape in the entire world. Now, I had mentioned something about Cabernet Sauvignon. One thing I wanted, actually, I'm going to just back up one sec. I'm going to do another kind of game here. I want to know who thinks red or white grapes, which one came first? Was it a red grape or a white grape? I want to see if, and again, 50-50, you got a pretty good chance of getting this right. Do you think it was a red grape that came first or a white grape that came first? Let's see if anybody gets it. Anybody? Red or white? Which one came first? Red. You are correct. Thank you so much. It is a red grape. Red grapes came first, and the reason we know that is because in white grapes, they can look and find the same DNA, but in a white variety, they'll have the same DNA as a red variety, but they have 2-point mutations. One great example is Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir came before Pinot Gris and Pinot Blanc. Pinot Gris, the gray version of that grape, has 1-point mutation that gives it kind of a half color of red, and the Pinot Blanc has 2 of those mutations, and so it becomes a white, but they actually have the same DNA, which is pretty amazing. So red grapes came before white grapes, but guess which one between Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Sauvignon came first? Trick question. It might be a little too obvious. Anybody? Did Cab come first or Sauvignon Blanc come first? Yes? You guys are too funny. You guys are good. So Sauvignon Blanc is actually the parent of Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet Sauvignon came around in the 1800s. Sauvignon Blanc has been around for a really long time. It got its name from the French word sauvage, which means savage or wild, and blanc, of course, means white. And so the savage white, they believe, came out of the Bordeaux region or the Loire region. I've seen it both. Regardless, they're both in the French region. And so that's where Sauvignon Blanc came from. So Sauvignon Blanc crossed with Cabernet Franc, and voila, we got Cabernet Sauvignon. So that's how those guys met. Now, there is one particular smell, it's a thiol that exists in Sauvignon Blanc that actually is very reminiscent of Cabernet Sauvignon. And Merlot is a cousin of Cabernet Sauvignon, and it is a black currant. Now, a lot of people don't say they smell black currant, but gooseberry and boxwood is very close in the realm of black currant. And so it's often believed that Cabernet Sauvignon is getting that black currant flavor from its parent, Sauvignon Blanc. I don't know if that all makes sense, but I think it's really interesting. So anyways, this wine, let's go on to the taste. Let's see what flavors we start picking up. So this is very tart. You can feel it right back here on the sides of the mouth. This wine would be excellent with anything acidic, or you could even pair it with something sweet, and it will help make it stand out a little bit more. The alcohol in this wine is 13.1% alcohol. It's a little on, it's not hot at all. You don't pick up any of the alcohol in the nose or the flavors. The acidity, it's around 6.3 in tartaric acid. So that's pretty acidic. I would say 7 or 8 is kind of a sparkling wine. So this isn't too abnormal in acidity, but it does feel pretty tart. And it's a dry wine. There's no sweetness to this. So it is, it's completely dry. And so it helps to kind of bring out the tartness. I don't know if anybody picks up a little bit of lime, but lime has a little bit of a bitterness. Hey, Megan, thanks for coming. Thanks for the interview earlier today. That was a lot of fun. And so, yeah, so this wine has just got a lot going on for it. In California, we would say, I think for me, I get a lot of the grapefruit flavor, which is very typical of California, and a lot of kind of tropical and lime flavors. If you are in France, a lot of people describe it as mineral or that gunflint smell. And then, of course, Marlborough, New Zealand, you're going to get some of the grassy notes and that grapefruit and passion fruit flavors. So, and everybody's taste buds are different. So if you don't pick up those flavors, don't worry about it. I hope you just enjoy the wine. Okay, so we are going to move on to the second wine. And I might need a second glass. I'm gonna ask my husband. I just want you to know we are live here from our studio audience of my dog, my 2 girls, and my husband. So if you hear my dog howl at a siren going by, don't mind that. All right, perfect, thank you. So let's move on to Moscato. So Moscato is the #1 in aromatics, of the most aromatics of all wines. I think Moscato probably is right on that same realm as Sauvignon Blanc. And we're gonna go ahead and open this up. Now this is an Italian grape. Moscato is a muscat. This is a very old family, muscat family of grapes have been propagated for a really long time, and since Romans, since Egyptians. I've found references of this family of grapes just being brought all around the world, but it's believed to come out of Italy. In the Piedmont region, I'm sure you guys have heard of Moscato d'Asti. This is a great wine, very well known to go with Asian foods. It's very low in alcohol, Moscato d'Asti. It's about 5%. The one we are drinking today, this is 11.8%. So it's not made in the same style as that region in Piedmont. There's also another region where they do a Spumanti, and that just means it's a sparkling Moscato. Moscato or Muscat, it's got kind of a musky flavor, and there is a chemical in it. They're called terpenes, and there's a couple other varieties that are loaded with terpenes, but Muscat is the number one. The other two that I can think of is Gewürztraminer and Riesling, and they're two other very popular whites. I don't know why all the whites have where all the aromatics are, but it just so happens that's where a lot of the big aromatics that people really notice easily are. So terpenes. Also, another thing about terpenes, almost all of your essential oils like lavender, almost any essential oil you can think of is actually a terpene. And it just so happens that there's a bunch of grapes that also have a bunch of terpenes in them. So this one is 11.8% alcohol. It's a little bit less in acidity. Let's go ahead and take a look at the color. Now, I bottled this before, we bottled it in November. I bottled it with my Nouveau Tempranillo because I want to capture the natural residual sugar in this. I do make it a little bit sweet, but the color is just really clear and watery almost, just a little bit of yellow in there, and that's because we bottle it so young, because I really am trying to capture this very fresh, just with a little bit of residual sugar right after fermentation. So the color looks good, no tartrates, yay, good job winemaker. And so let's do the smell. So this is another really powerful aromatic wine. For me, I get floral. It's almost a little soapy, a beautiful soap, but a little soapy. Roses. It's got a little bit of citrus in it. Does anybody else get any other flavors or aromas in this? It smells, it's not super sweet. If you guys think that Moscatos are all gonna be sweet, it's not super sweet. This one's about 1% residual sugar, because I don't really like them super sweet, but I wanna make them food friendly as well. And a lot of Moscatos tend to go really well with Asian food, something maybe a little bit spicy. Someone mentioned some honeysuckle, some mandarin orange. That is great. I agree with you, Sandra. I get that mandarin orange smell. We get roses and leech. Very good. I get all of those. A little gardenia. Thank you guys all for pitching in. I smell all that as well. So this one, let's go ahead and let's do the taste on this. So this one is definitely a little fuller in weight. It still has the acidity, not quite like the Sauvignon Blanc, but it still has good acidity. But you can taste the sweetness. Can you guys taste the sweetness? It's just on the edge. You can definitely perceive it, but it balances the acidity on it, still is quite balanced on it. Probably not as sweet as most Moscatos out there. You taste, Heather tastes the sweetness. That's wonderful. So someone's asking me if it's blended with something. Moscato is 100% Muscat Blanc. And another name for Muscat Blanc is Muscat Canelli. Now, both of these grapes we grow in Napa. And in Napa, we took the clone Muscat Canelli. There's a town called Canelli. It's the Moscato of Canelli out of Italy, and that's how it gets its name. Megan said it's a perfect amount of sweetness. Thank you. Me and you have the same taste buds, that's for sure. Someone mentioned a little green tea with honey. I could get that. I could get the honey for sure. I definitely get that. So anyways, Moscato is just something that I'm going to actually, you know what I want to do? So we're going to kind of wrap this up. But I want to tell you next week, I'm going to do something, I'm going to add in with our Petite Temptation. I'm going to teach a little bit about food pairing and something that you guys can do at home. This is my little trick when I'm trying to figure out which wines will go with what foods. Sometimes when I'm not really sure, I'll just take a plate out and I'll cut a slice of lemon. And I will put a pinch of salt, I'll put a pinch of sugar, I'll put an umami flavor. Now the best way for umami flavor, and I know this sounds a little strange, but take a raw mushroom, put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds, pull it out and smell it. That's the umami flavor. It's kind of like this soy saucy flavor that is very delicious. I know that doesn't sound delicious to do that to a mushroom, but if you want to know what that flavor is, and if you're trying to figure out which wines to pair with, it's a real quick way to just do a little comparison. So you have your lemon, your salt, your sugar, your umami flavor, and then I also usually put a little sriracha on and my plate, and then I taste the wine and I go through each one of those flavor elements and I see which one it pairs with, and it becomes really obvious what foods you will want to go with the wine. I love for these two, at least try the lemon with these two wines and you will be shocked at what it does. The lemon will make both of them taste sweeter than they really are. And it's an amazing little exercise to go through. Sugar also is a very interesting thing with these two wines. If this wine was a little sweeter, that sriracha would go perfectly. But if you did sriracha with the Sauvignon Blanc, you would notice that they are a horrible combination. You don't want that super acidic and super spicy together. The only one that really works would be the Moscato. So just a little exercise to try. Next week, I'm going to actually do that with the Petite Temptations, our Vina blend. So some of you guys have asked how the monks are doing. They're all doing really good. I will say that since they're cloistered monks, they're kind of used to this lifestyle. So they're doing fine. They are all communicating their normal pattern. And just their church is closed though to the public, as I'm sure all of you guys probably are assuming. But yeah, all of their love to you guys, and thank you all for coming out and showing your support. I really appreciate it. Stay healthy, stay happy, and have a great day.